Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Max with BuzzTox here, and I'm back with the Westworld Season 2, Episode 9 prediction video. In these videos, I look at trailer material, episode titles, and previous episodes to try and predict and theorize what will happen next. Now, this episode seems like it's going to be very emotional and self-reflective for William, as he's in the final stages of finishing off Ford's storyline, looking for the door. And that kind of goes hand in hand with the title of this episode. It's called Vanishing Point. And that's the point at which two parallel lines in the distance start to converge into each other. And I believe this is William and the two different lives he's been living. He's had his real self, his true self, that exists in Westworld. And then he's had his persona that he's been living in his real life. And the purpose of the door is to converge these two so William finds himself. It's the journey of self-discovery. Until the very moment when William finds himself and he prints himself a new body. And that would make him the first successful human to be transferred into an immortal host body. And it's very fitting that it's William's character, because William, out of every character in this show, his real life is in Westworld. In Westworld, he had purpose, he had meaning, and he had love. And the more we learn about William, the more we find out that his life belongs in Westworld. And transferring into a host body would be very fitting. Unlike James Delos, he would actually accept his new reality of being an immortal being, and he would return to Dolores, the only woman who he's ever loved. And this leads us to the key to understand William as a character. We hear a conversation between him and his wife Juliet, and she simply demands to hear one true thing, and William says that no one else sees it, this thing in me. Even I didn't see it at first, and then one day it was there, a stain, invisible to everyone except for you. And I think this person he's talking to is his wife. And it gives further context as to why she killed herself. Now, this stain is a lot deeper than it may appear. It's not about the bad or the evil inside of William. Sure, he's been evil in the park, but even in this season he said that he played the villain role because there were no stakes. And we've seen him kind of don a heroic figure because he feels like he can die at any moment. And the two times we've seen William in the park when there's true stakes is when he's most real. When he fell in love with Dolores, he felt like the stakes were real. And we saw the true William, and we're starting to see that unfold in this very season. So William isn't a bad guy, he's just a man who's stuck between worlds. And this stain that he talks about that nobody else can see except for his wife, is that it's the stain of the park. Because ever since he went into Westworld and fell in love with Dolores, he's been stained with that world. He can't get rid of it, because that's his new reality. That's the world that he wishes he was a part of. And Juliet has understood it the whole time. The game William plays is the billionaire philanthropist, but the person who he really is comes out in Westworld. We see her look at Dolores with disdain, because Dolores left a huge, impressionable mark on William. And I believe it's the only woman who he's ever truly loved. And that was William's whole journey last season. He says it himself, he feels like Westworld is more real than the real world. And he was fighting to find the Maeves because he wants Westworld to have stakes. It's the world that has purpose and has meaning. And now he finally wants the consequences to go with it.
This is your own fault, Dolores. Remember, you're the one who said this is the only world that matters, and you were right. So I took your advice, and I bought this world. And business is booming. And you want to know why? Because this place feels more real than the real world. Except it isn't. Because you can't really fight back. And the guests can't really lose. Which means all of this is a lie.
What were you hoping to find?
You know what I wanted. I wanted the hosts to stop playing by your rules. The game's not worth playing if your opponent's programmed to lose. I wanted them to be free to fight back. Should have known you'd never let them.
And that's what led Juliet to kill herself. It wasn't the fact that William was evil in the park. It was the realization that she was the game. She was a part of that fake facade William put up, to allow nobody to see who he truly was. She was just a piece to William's life to make him look normal. But he never belonged in that world, he belonged in Westworld. And that's what I think William speculates that she understood, and that's what led to her death. And we see in this season that even his daughter Emily doesn't understand. She tells him that she always saw the appeal of Westworld, the fact that it's life without consequence. But she thinks it's upsetting that he's still obsessed with it now. And the truth is, she really doesn't understand her father. William doesn't like Westworld because it has no consequence. He likes Westworld because it gives him purpose, meaning, and love. It's everything he ever wanted, and even last season we see him pursue to give Westworld that consequence. It's the one thing William ever wanted. And because William is stuck between worlds, we see him build barriers between his real life and his Westworld life. Because of his fascination with Westworld, he cut relationships with his daughter and his wife. But it's a feeling that he cannot get rid of. So that's what the stain is. The stain is the life that he always wanted in Westworld, and the life that he never could have. Because every time he went back, the love of his life, Dolores, never remembered him. And his friend Lawrence didn't remember him either. So over the years, that breaks you down and he becomes the villain, because it makes Dolores and Lawrence seem the most real. He never treated Dolores poorly for the fun of it. He treated her poorly because he could see her become more and more real. And it brought him closer to the life that he always wanted. And that's the reason why Ford made William find the door. William was one of those people who always belonged in Westworld. So now Ford put him on a journey of self-discovery. He's confronting all the mistakes he made, the man that he became. He had to watch himself be the villain through Craddock. He had to pay the price for the actions he did to Maeve. And now he's confronting his daughter, a relationship that was ruined with his fascination with Westworld. And I think the last person he must confront is Dolores. And every choice William has made has brought him closer to who he actually is. And I feel like that's Ford setting William up to go through the door. When he reaches the valley beyond, or his biggest mistake, his body will be waiting there, because that's the body Ford printed in Sector 17. And we'll see him switch bodies. I think his daughter could die, and that suffering would push him through the door. And it would eliminate that last anchor to his real world life. And then he'd be able to continue to the life he always wanted. And as I said before, his body would be able to handle this transition because Westworld was always more real than his real world. His mind wouldn't reject itself anymore, like James Delos. And for William to achieve this goal, there's going to be a lot of self-reflection. Much like all the hosts when they look back on the reveries, and that suffering pushes them forward, William is going to look back on his memories, all the mistakes he made, all the negatives in his past. We see Dolores be the reminder of the life he always wanted, and we see the jealousy and disdain from his wife. He's reliving that tragic moment over and over again of his wife killing herself. And I believe we're going to see the reason of this happen in this episode. We see William at this event for Westworld, and this probably takes place a couple years before the gala shooting, and it will establish some key plot points for William's journey to the door. We see that Emily's there, and they're probably going to share a very negative reaction, since they never really saw eye to eye. But most importantly, we see his wife, Juliet. And I believe here is where we're going to see them have a fight that will lead Juliet to kill herself. She's going to beg him to tell the truth, tell her one true thing. And then William talks about the stain. And it's that reality that's going to seep in where she realizes that she was a part of his game, and his reality is actually in Westworld. He doesn't see his wife and his family as a true thing. Last season, he even went to Westworld to try and find something that is true.
Because this place feels more real than the real world. Except it isn't. Because you can't really fight back, and the guests can't really lose.
The feelings that he felt with Dolores was real. And on top of that, we see that he's going to meet up with Ford. And I believe that this is actually Ford because this is going to be quite a bit in the past. And I think this interaction will further paint the picture of the storyline that Ford designed for William, and the reasons why. We've seen clips of Ford planning his storyline. And I believe this interaction was Ford almost talking to William to build that foundation of him finding the door. He might talk about William's personal lust for the park, his relationship with Dolores, or the type of person he is. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Dolores dressed up by Ford's side in this next episode. Because I think this party takes place before season 1, before William went back into the park, and before his wife killed herself. And I think seeing Dolores again would be a reminder for him, and he would enter the park again. And I believe all these past memories will be in William's mind next episode. But then we'll see what he's actually doing. Grace took him away from the Ghost Nation last episode, and I feel like these two characters have much bigger plans than just being rescued. I know that Emily told her father that she wanted to just leave with him, but when we first saw her in Rajworld, she had a map, And with that, she had a logo which represented her father's biggest mistake. It's the project of transferring human consciousness into a host body. So it seems like, in a sense, she's looking for answers to her father's past projects. So William and his daughter may actually head for his biggest mistake, the Valley Beyond, that area that Akecheta found and that William showed Dolores. And that would explain why Emily told Akecheta that William will suffer more with her than he will with Akecheta. And that's because he's on that journey of self-discovery once again. He has to suffer through his daughter finding out who he truly is, or what he was truly after. But it seems like things could potentially go wrong. We see William picking up a machine gun and shooting someone. I don't know how he's going to find the gun, or what conflict they're going to be involved in. But it's clear that since William picked up a machine gun, it means that this is a point of desperation, and it's a point of survival. So I would say he could be shooting at somebody to stay on his game, to keep pursuing Ford's storyline because he's so fixated in this world. He could also shoot somebody to protect his daughter, or he could be the one to kill his daughter because he believes that she's a host. But regardless, I think the emotional beat of this would involve his daughter. I think whether he tries to save her, whether he kills her, I think he realizes that this is his actual daughter, and I think that she could potentially die. And that would be the suffering that would lead to William wanting to kill himself. We see him put a gun to his head. And that's the realization that he lost his actual daughter. And it's the loss of that one final anchor into his real reality world. To the point where all he has left now is Westworld. But regardless, if this doesn't happen in episode 9, I'm very convinced Emily will die this season, because she's needed to push William through that door. And this shot of William is very reminiscent of Dolores. When Dolores was on her journey of self-discovery, finding her inner self, she also put a gun to her head. The fact that she was so overwhelmed with all the suffering and her past reveries led her to do that. And it's much like William, he's being overwhelmed with his daughter potentially dying, with his wife committing suicide, and all these traumatic memories which would lead him to this conclusion. But like the hosts, suffering is a point to push one off to find their own true self. And I think this is key in Ford's storyline to allow William to go through the door. But we see a lot of other plot points outside of William. We see Teddy being inspected by someone. Judging by the fact that this person is wearing modern clothing tells me that this is actually the present storyline. This is the Teddy that was found in the flooded valley, and whose body has been left virgin. So I think Strand and Charlotte will figure out how significant Dolores is in taking her father's control module. And of course Charlotte will know because she was a first-hand witness. But I think they'll try and use Teddy to try and understand Dolores and what her motives are. But it will be interesting to see what happens because he's supposedly virgin, or 1/3 of the bodies in the body of water are completely wiped. And I think we'll see answers of how this happened. How 1/3 of the bodies ended up wiped. And I think that leads to printing new bodies or taking their control modules to the Great Valley Beyond. In Bernard's flashback, we see a printed skeleton. So that tells us that in the next 2 episodes, we're going to be seeing some individual be reborn or printed. And that individual could be Teddy. But it also could be another key character. And we know that Bernard is captured and he's probably going to be taken to the Valley Beyond, where he's going to start piecing together what he actually did. And I think they're going to use Clementine to lead them there. Much like Dolores did the Confederados, they're going to bring Clementine back and have her guide them to that Great Valley. But in the timeline in between the shooting at the gala and the present timeline, we're going to see Teddy start to discover himself. The gun that Dolores used to kill Arnold and Ford seems to be accessing reveries of Teddy. And it seems like we're going to be seeing a difference in opinion or a fight break out between Dolores and her army versus Akecheta and his Ghost Nation. And we're going to see the progression of how Dolores ended up killing that Ghost Nation native on the beach, because she told him that he does not deserve to make it to the Great Valley Beyond. But based on the last episode, it seems like he was, because Akecheta became the teacher, and he taught his own squad first. So no matter what, I think this individual is at least self-aware of their situation. So Dolores' criteria on who deserves to make it to the Valley Beyond is really uncertain. And I think that will really define the key differences between Akecheta and Dolores. Akecheta believes that everyone deserves a chance. The living and the damned, they all deserve to make it to the Great Valley Beyond. They all deserve a chance at finding consciousness. Whereas Dolores has become the Judas steer and she's very selective on who deserves to make it. So I think we may see some civil war break out between these hosts, but I think they'll start to understand each other, because they all have certain information that the others don't have. If you want to know more about that, check out my explained video for episode 8. But we know that all these characters are journeying towards the door, or the valley beyond, and they all have a different reason for going. Akichita believes he's going to be free from the shackles of humans, and he'll be able to find his wife again, Koana. Dolores is going because she believes that there's a weapon that she can use against the humans. And William is going there because it's his biggest mistake. And this all provides further context of what they could find at that location. Ford told Bernard last season that they're not ready yet. They need to suffer more and they need to learn their enemy. And I think that's exactly what the door is. It is a place where they're free from the humans, but it's a place for them to learn about them. I think there's going to be a cradle that houses humans in a modern setting. And Dolores, Bernard, all these characters will be able to go there and learn about every guest that has ever entered the park. They'll also be able to put in Abernathy's control module and dissect all of the human printed conscious information into this cradle, so Abernathy could be cured. We've seen in the present that Bernard doesn't have Ford in his mind anymore. This is where Bernard could extract Ford out of his mind, and Ford would be transported to the door. And I believe all characters will find what they're looking for. Dolores will have the ultimate weapon to learn about the humans, until she's finally ready to take her kind into the real world. Ford found out that Akichita was looking for his wife beyond the door, and last season he set her free. He set all of Sublevel B83 free, in order to enact his storyline of the gala shooting. So I think Akichita's wife, Koana, will be waiting for him beyond the door. And I think William's host body will be waiting there for him, so he can successfully transfer from his own body to a host body. However, I don't think this transfer will be willingly done by William. But regardless, there's going to be a lot of drama here. We know that William is going to arrive and start shooting at Dolores. And we see that Bernard is run over and killed. And we see multiple shots of all these characters journeying to the door. We see Dolores seemingly traveling with possibly Bernard. We also see Bernard walking by himself, journeying to that valley. And we see Akichita traveling with all of his men. And at the destination, we see that a fight could potentially break out, where William is shooting at Dolores. And this, I believe, is the last part of William's journey of self-discovery. It's confronting the only woman who he's ever loved. And after he faces Dolores, it's going to wrap up his journey, and he's going to walk through the door. And then there's Maeve's storyline. And we see Maeve looking at an old man, and she seems emotional. And I think that this is Ford. And I think that in reality, it's actually Bernard. But she sees Ford because of her cognition. She knows that Ford is in Bernard, and I think Maeve is going to have an interaction with Ford. And I think Ford wants Maeve's best interest, and he wants her to genuinely have a chance at life. So I think he's going to save her. And we see her healed up with Hector here with marks on her neck, showing that she has been healed. And I think she's going to get her team back. We see Sylvester and Sizemore. And I think that will help Maeve reach the Ghost Nation. So I believe here when Maeve reaches the Ghost Nation, I think Dolores may come, and we may see an attack between hosts. And we see Maeve trying to access a hidden power, or a new ability, or simply the mesh network, to try and control the chaos that's happening. So it will be very interesting to see how all these leading hosts come together and resolve their differences. Dolores' key motivation right now is to destroy humankind, and to try and take the select few hosts and push them to consciousness. Akichita doesn't really want to exterminate humans, he's simply focused on teaching. He wants to teach the hosts, he wants all of them to have a chance at being conscious. And then there's Maeve, whose only focus right now is to find her own daughter, and to be united with her. But that's all I gotta say for this episode, everyone. Please let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your predictions and theories. I'm planning on doing a live stream just before Westworld airs, on Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please come so we can chat Westworld just before episode 9 airs. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.